You saw last week the Liberator, an entirely 3D printed gun, a pistol that Cody Wilson, the leader of Defense Distributed, designed. The blueprints were made available on his website. You saw a video of it being fired. Now, we should bear in mind that while the vast majority of it is made with this high quality plastic, you do need a firing pin, which apparently you can make out of a nail. And it's supposed to have a metal piece that allows metal detectors to detect it. But of course, that isn't essential, and we have no reason to believe that people who print out these guns will actually use that. Anyway, those plans, the blueprints, have now been scrubbed from the internet by the Department of Defense. There's a posting on the Defense Distributed website that says, "Until further notice, the United States government claims control of the information." So the U.S. Department of Defense Trade Control says that they need to look into this and find out if it's illegal in some fashion. We also have a quote, by the way, from Cody Wilson, the developer of these blueprints. He says that they asked that I take it down while they determine if they have the authority to control the info, being the blueprints. It's clearly a direct response to everything we did this week. 3D printing is clearly not the best way to make an effective weapon. There, he's talking to Fox News, and of course he has to sneak in that, oh yeah, don't worry about this. Like, it's so much easier to get guns legally. Which it very well might be, but if your only option is to do it illegally, this seems like a pretty good one, especially as the price of 3D printers goes down. So, the government took these plans off of the internet, despite the fact that 100,000 copies had already been downloaded from Defense Distributed just in that week. So, are we free and clear now of the 3D printed gun threat? Of course not. The Pirate Bay stepped in. They have taken these blueprints and made them a torrent that can be downloaded. It's already spread to other torrent sites as well. So despite the best efforts of the administration and of the Department of Defense to squash these 3D printed gun blueprints, they're now out there. We talked about this when the news first came out. Unless you take it down in the first quarter of a second, somebody's going to download it, they're going to upload it to a torrent site, and now it's out there. And look, this isn't the be-all, end-all of 3D gun blueprints. This one happens to work. You can fire one shot or whatever. Others will be made. Progress, it can't be stopped, really. Now, look, I know some people are going to say that I'm being hypocritical because I certainly do my fair share of torrent downloading. I believe that some things can be freely distributed and it really harms no one. If I download a movie that I would never otherwise pay for, I've told myself and convinced myself that I'm not really hurting anyone. You might disagree. But in this case, we're talking about guns. We're talking about somebody potentially buying one of these printers, printing up 100 of these guns, arming their insane militia, and then shooting law enforcement officials or going into a school and gunning down children. Like, that's a very real possibility. Now look, could they do it with guns that they make in their garage out of metal? Yes, possibly. Could they do it with guns that they buy legally? Yes, possibly. Both of those things would be easier to track for a number of different reasons than these 3D printed guns, which could conceivably just be melted down again after the crime was committed. Now, I'm saying that I don't like this. If they wanted to ban these in some way, I suppose they probably could. Zip guns have been banned and other sorts of homemade guns have been banned before. Do I think that that will make a difference in the long run? No, I really don't. I find this story to be kind of depressing because I don't want this sort of technology to spread. Not the 3D printers. I love those. I love the idea of having a replicator in my home. But I don't want any kid to be able to download and produce his own gun. And no matter how hard it is to assemble the damn thing, or if you have to make a firing pin out of a nail, I think that it's ridiculous. There's really, realistically, not much that we can do, but I think that we've entered a pretty scary period in history where people can conceivably make their own weapons out of just plastic that they have lying around. I don't know what we're going to do about this, but it's an interesting story. We're going to keep watch of it. I think that Cody Wilson, he has this obsession with liberty. He loves to talk about it, but I think that in the long run, he might very well be responsible, at least in some sense, for multiple deaths.